Hidden below the cityscape of Houston on the unforgiving concrete, our heroes prepare. Juan Montoya, Dario Franchitti. The two contenders in the championship hunt. Every precious point brings them one step closer to victory. Today, only 1 point is at stake, but two men want it. Two men need it, but only one can qualify on top. The battle on the streets begins. The champ cars of the Kart FedEx Championship Series are ready for the final round of qualifying for the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston. This begins our coverage this weekend with the race itself being carried Sunday afternoon on ABC Sports. Hello and welcome. I'm Paul Page with Parker Johnstone, and championship fight could in fact be decided this weekend. There are really three contenders in the fight, though third place Paul Tracy really has a very, very long reach if he wants to see a championship. But for Dario Franchitti and points leader Juan Montoya, it's an entirely different story. Montoya currently leads by 28 points. 1 point is available here in qualifying, and if Montoya can leave here with a 44-point lead, he will in fact be the brand new champion. So for Dario Franchitti, things are getting a little desperate.
He really has an uphill struggle. Keep in mind the last two races at Laguna and Vancouver, Dario made crucial mistakes trying to get passes completed. We haven't seen Juan Montoya make a mistake all year long in the heat of battle. So it comes down to Houston. Both teams have great mechanical reliability. Certainly Montoya can be confident. He can drive with just a little bit of caution, although I don't expect he will. Dario's got to go for broke, and if he can't get the job done here, the next race and the final race will even be that much tougher for him.
There are other stories here this weekend. The return of one of our favorites. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, that man has to be Christian Fittipaldi. He's got to be the happiest guy in Texas right now because he's back, and he's back in a race car. He's done a terrific job already this weekend after being sidelined after a devastating testing crash. He was down for 7 weeks, but now after missing 5 races, he's back. And yesterday in provisional qualifying, he found himself outside row 1. He waits patiently for an opportunity to protect that front row starting spot and get back in the championship points hunt himself. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, there were two big surprises in qualifying yesterday. First, Naoki Hattori in 5th, Richie Hearn in 7th place. Now, for Richie, he said simply, it's the first time this year with the Reynard chassis we've unloaded off the trailer with the car close. In other words, we didn't have to make big changes. We made little ones, and this morning in practice, he was second quickest. Now, for Naoki Hattori, he said, you know, I know I had a good lap. I thought maybe, well, 10th or 12th place. So when I found out it was 5th, that was a very pleasant surprise indeed. Paul?
In fact, speaking of this morning's practice, little incident on the course. There goes Max Pappas, just off the edge. No problem there. The problem was coming. Andrea Montremini drove right under the car. Another view of it.
And remember, last year the roles were reversed with Alex Barron and then Brian Herta. So the same two teams, different drivers, same results.
Yeah, interesting reaction as well. Now, we're ready to go live qualifying as we watch Helio Castro Neves driving for Carl Hogan. And he should be picking up to a high-speed run. Most of the cars have 2 laps in. And, of course, like with most of the road courses, look at him track the back end of that car. With most of the road courses, the 3rd lap, 4th lap is usually the quickest. He just completed his 3rd lap and doesn't make that much of an improvement. Fastest on the course of this, the first group right now, is Cristiano Damata at a 60.83.
Well, there are several drivers who had problems yesterday during qualifying. They were very quick in this morning's practice, and we do expect them to move up quite a bit during this final qualifying session. You talked about Christian Damata. Also, Adrian Fernandez now pops up to 7th quick, but Cristiano Damata is one of them. Scott Pruitt on the move, Greg Moore, and also Helio Castroneves. Castroneves 9th quickest this morning. He was disappointed with his qualifying run yesterday, had some mechanical problems. And Jan Beekes, you say there's a change to the track condition.
Well, there potentially could be. There have been a few sprinkles in the area. And in fact, many of the teams are covering some of the cars that will go out in the second group. So if any of those drivers see spots of rain on their visors, as we see here on pit in, obviously they will get with it and try and get a good lap in case we get more showers.
As we watch Adrian Fernandez, we were, of course, watching Greg Moore, and the entire Forsythe team, the player side of the team, has been moving back and forth between primary and backup car. Carpentier did it in this morning's practice, but Moore came out in the backup car for this session, so of course that wipes away any time that he had yesterday. And yesterday, well, there's a good move for him just now. We saw Adrian as he just looked like he got the right rear. Yeah, he got it more than a little against the wall. Here it is again, Parker.
You can see him exit this corner. He hit it. It just white-walled the car. You can see him lean on it. He did the exact right thing. He just held it there until he got control of the car and then drove it off the wall. With that lap, he popped up to fourth quick.
Yeah, Adrian Fernandez at a 60.24, but Greg Moore on the cross of the finish line previously was at 60.25, good enough for fifth quick. Al Unser Jr., a lot of smoke back out of the engine compartment of that this weekend Penske car, and that may spell the end of Little Al's day. We'll wait, we'll see.
Penske now running the Penske chassis. Remember, they had gone back to the Lolas, had run them at the previous race at Laguna Seca. Now back in the Penske chassis. Looks like they're having motor problems. It's pretty obvious at the back. Al not having a good weekend, trying to come to terms with the bumpy circuit here at Houston. Most of the corners are 90-degree corners, 65 to 70 miles an hour. You can see the oil spray there on the back of the side pod. Looks like they've got a big problem with the right side of the exhaust system, the cylinder heads there, Paul.
Some news out today on Al Unser Jr., though. The Indianapolis Star today reporting what many of us have heard talked about for several weeks, and that is that Al Unser Jr. at the conclusion of this season for Roger Penske will go over and join his old buddy Rick Gallis, the Indy Racing League, and will be racing there next year. Al Unser Jr., of course, has made it a personal goal to try and get Roger Penske's 100th win before he does that, but that, much like Paul Tracy's shot at a championship, seems a long, long reach. Mimo Gidley backs it into the tire barrier, and that's a position that may, in fact, bring a full course caution, if not a full red flag out within the next few moments. So while the qualifying session for the first of the two groups is underway, the provisional pole sitter waiting his chance to go out, that's Montoya. Back in Texas as qualifying now begins once again for the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston. We did have a stoppage. This is the primary reason. Look there. Mimo Gidley saved himself at the last second.
Well, he sort of did. The tail end got out to the left there. He overcorrected just a little bit. It snapped back the other way. Traditional tank slapper backs it into the tires. Obviously, rear wing damage. He's out of the car. He's okay.
And he will suffer an 8-minute penalty based on the kart rule system. He will not be able to race for 8 minutes now, assuming that they get back and get another car ready to go within that time frame. So everybody now working back up to speed once again. Again, Montoya is the provisional pole sitter. He will be in the second group coming out today. On the graphic, the gold arrowheads show you who is in the session that we are currently following. And, in fact, we are following Adrian Fernandez as he tries to come up to speed. Remember, he is back second race after breaking his right wrist in the warm-up for the race at Detroit. Another story we're following today. Jan Beekes?
Yes, Al Unser Jr. has climbed from his car. Now, we saw the smoke from the engine, but also damage on the right side of the car. You got into the wall?
Yeah, they're at the end of the backstretch, the two left-handers on the second part of that left-hander. I got lost the back end and got into the wall, and then that's what broke the engine. It broke the engine, I guess, just stressed all the lines and so on. And it's just a shame, you know, the car was working pretty good. We were getting that. That was my best lap, and it was going, and it's just a shame we put it in the fence.
Yeah, I know you obviously had a good chance with this weather to improve your time. One other question. It came out today in the press that Rick Gallis in Las Vegas said that you guys, in fact, had a deal next year for the IRL. Is that the case?
We're talking. Rick and I are talking. I'm not going to say anything other than that. You know, there's nothing signed or anything like that, but we're talking.
Thank you, Al.
Now, the smile says a great deal. And it looks like Al Unser Jr., as we watch Greg Moore, who will go to Team Penske along with Joe DeFerrin next year, looks like Al Unser Jr. will start last. He's never done that in his career.
When things get difficult, sometimes you just can't get a break, Paul, and that's been the case for Team Penske and Al Unser Jr. all year long.
And right now, of the cars in this session, Fernandez and Moore have moved up to 4th and 5th. And we're expecting Moore to push that time up a little bit more.
Now, where Al Unser Jr. lost it right here coming onto this long back straightaway, I've got to tell you, Paul, that actually it's the corners that lead after this. The problem with Houston, it's a little unique in its configuration in that a lot of these corners have rain gutters down the inside of where the walls are placed at the apexes. It's very easy to hook a wheel on the inside, turns the car right around, and where Al crashed, there were no tire barriers on the exit of the corner, which means that he hit the wall extremely hard, which is why he had the engine problems after suffering the suspension damage. The other thing that's unusual about this course is all street courses that the Champ Cars visit now have good line of sight. They've moved the concrete walls back. They've got low FIA curbing so the drivers can see through the corners. At Houston, the drivers aren't able to do that. They're essentially turning without being able to see the apex point as they roll in. Oh, we see Adrian. Just lock up that inside wheel. He made the right choice there and just chose to use a bit of the escape road rather than get into the tires. Nice 180, and off he goes. But the problem is they're having to turn the wheel without actually being able to have the visual reference of the inside of the corner. It's a very, very difficult place to drive. You can see it's very bumpy, and it's very difficult for the drivers to try to get that last little bit out of the car, because if they hit the bumps, the manhole covers, or these inside drainage curbs wrong, well, there's no other result than being backed into the concrete.
Well, and drainage, again, being the issue, the roads here are all crowned, but with right-angle intersections, the crowning really can become confusing as you pass through the corner.
And not only is the crowning a problem, Paul, but there's several parts of this track where it goes from asphalt to concrete. The concrete sections are very, very bumpy, really bounces the drivers around a lot, and if the cars aren't hooked up exactly right, if they don't have their springing and damping exactly right, the drivers are just hanging on. There's really no way for them to try to be confident in the car, try to slide the car right out to the wall. So there you can see one of the transitions that we were talking about. Oh, boy, Cristiano D'Amato driving this car extremely hard. We've seen a lot of tires locked up, a lot of problems with brakes, a lot of flat-spotted tires, because the drivers, with all the corners being about the same, they're essentially accelerating, decelerating, accelerating, decelerating. No high-speed corners on this track like we saw at Vancouver, some of the other street courses, so they have to push that last little bit under braking and hope they can get the power down coming off without having problems over the bumps in between.
And take a look at the bumps. You got a good view on the last corner, certainly on this corner, as Cristiano D'Amato still sits 12th quick. Now, we want to get you up to date on Christian Fittipaldi, who is in fact back and waiting to go out.
Paul, we stand with Christian as he awaits the arrival of his car and a chance to get back out there. First of all, physically, it looks like you're just doing great. Are you the happiest guy in Texas to be healthy again?
No, I'm obviously very, very happy to be healthy again. There's no doubt about that, apart from being able to drive a racing car. But the most important is really one's health, and as long as I'm okay, that's the most important thing in my life.
Yesterday, did you surprise yourself with the fact that you come out of the box, so to speak, and be so competitive and, in fact, get a front row start in the provisional grid?
A little bit, yes. I thought we would come here, and the first day we would be like in the top 6, top 8. But I was a little bit surprised, and I thought I was going to struggle a little bit more physically. I'm not saying that tomorrow is going to be easy for me. By no means. It's going to be definitely very, very hard, but I think we have a shot at the pole this afternoon if it doesn't rain.
We look forward to watching you. Great to have you back.
Thank you.
Christian Fittipaldi still 59.9, second quick. Of course, that will change when his session begins. Cristiano D'Amato jumped up to 4th quick with the 60.23, and Robbie Gordon had a real serious problem as he came onto the pit straight here. There it begins.
Well, you can see the smoke coming from the back of his car as he came down in front of our position. Huge plume of smoke. Obviously has a mechanical problem here. Oh, there it is. Well, there's the smoke, Paul.
The smoke created by one of the cones that they set. In fact, that one helps mark the blend line in and out of the pits on this track. And for a moment, it looked like it might have been an engine. He was pouring so much smoke coming down the pit straight. But now with that cone sitting out into the middle of the track, it looks like they're going to put out the red flag, stop the session once again, retrieve that and any other debris that is a problem. Quickest in this session thus far is Cristiano D'Amato. Well, we're back at Houston. We want to show you once again what caused the red flag situation that stopped the qualifying as Robbie Gordon picked up one of the cones at the edge of the track and drug it some considerable distance.
Well, he did, and you have to wonder if that damaged the underbody, because the cars are obviously all made out of carbon fiber, and at the speeds 180-plus miles an hour that these drivers are traveling, you would think with the roughness of this circuit it could have punched a hole or had some other effect to the bottom of the car. But you know, Robbie really doesn't seem to care. Obviously, he's back out there driving hard as usual.
Now back out in the Eagle as we move back keeping track of Greg Moore, and go to Gary Gerald.
Juan Montoya watching this qualifying action, an opportunity to go out here and cement a pole position and another point toward a championship. Are you playing it conservative? Are you being aggressive? How are you approaching this race weekend?
Like any other. You know, we need to be in front of Dario, and, you know, if we can win the race, there'll be more points. Dario is pretty quick here as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting qualifying.
This team has done a remarkable job of focusing week by week by week. Is that something that Chip talks to you about and not thinking of the big picture and the championship?
I don't know. That's the way we do it here. You know, since I came, and the way I like to work is that way as well. You know, we still, you know, we're looking good for the championship, but there's still quite a few races to go.
So many race weekends. I know you've struggled a bit on Fridays and Saturdays, and you found the magic combination with Morris and everybody on Sunday. But here, you've been impressively fast. Have you surprised yourself that you've been quick out of the box on a course you've not run on before?
You know, it helped that I was in the second session yesterday, but I think the car was pretty good as well. You know, out of the box, the first lap I did 60.4. That was pretty good. So we'll see.
All right, we'll watch you and see if you can hang on to that spot. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Let's go to Juan.
Well, of course, Dario Franchitti is one of the guys that Juan Montoya mentioned. Your big concern right now is weather. You're concerned you might get some moisture and not be able to improve your time?
Yeah, we're thinking it could rain, especially now what's happened here. 3 guys have gone quicker. That would make things pretty difficult for us.
Now, if it's dry, how's your car? How was it this morning? Is pole a real possibility?
We're still struggling a little bit this morning, but we found something. We went back onto the setup bed, so we're looking to have a bit of a better car this afternoon.
All right, hope it stays dry for you.
They're watching Cristiano Damata there for a bit. He is currently quickest in this group with a 60.23. Now on board Adrian Fernandez, who is 5th quick, right behind Damata, in, again, this first of the 2 qualifying sessions today.
And as we watch Adrian, you can see he's using up every inch of road. Car is everywhere, but he's on top of it. Now he's just backed out of it. Paul obviously made a mistake coming off that last corner. He's going to let his tires cool down and get another run at it. You can see now inches make the difference between 8th on the grid, 5th on the grid.
Counting through the last 4 minutes of the first group of qualifying, back to Helio Castroneves, 10th quick. At the moment, just crosses the line, unable to improve on his time. He's currently sitting with a 60.43.
You can see him transitioning back off the concrete to the asphalt, hanging it out. Also, watch for the manhole covers. Now, the drivers usually will take a classic racing line in most places, but you'll see them alter that line in order to center those manhole covers underneath the car so that under braking or accelerating or lots of cornering load, they don't have the loaded tires over those covers. So he's looking for the smoothest point down the racetrack, not necessarily the straightest point or what would be considered a classic racing line. Still hanging it out, Paul.
Boy, he is all over the place. Dario Franchitti mentioned the possibility of rain. It's come, it's gone several times today as we continue to watch Helio Castroneves, and he continues to throw that back in, or at least the back end goes for him. The kind of rain that we've had are those local, very tight but fairly heavy showers that have been passing through the Houston area. And if that would hit part of the race course or all of it, it would certainly have a terrible effect upon the second group of qualifying and scramble this whole game of the championship a little bit further.
Well, of course, it's a big factor as the weather is positioning. As we could see, that great lap of Castroneves came to naught when he caught up to Greg Moore. We hear the drivers talk often about traffic problems, especially on these temporary circuits. You only have a lap or two when the tires are at their optimum operating temperatures where you can get the most out of the car, and there it was, a great lap spoiled because he caught Greg Moore at exactly the wrong time in the wrong place.
And Adrian Fernandez, Mauricio Guzman takes it off course down at the end of the pit straightaway. Adrian Fernandez jumps up to number 1, 59.7. So Adrian Fernandez out of this group takes the pole position, at least for the moment. And Jimmy Vasser moves up to 4th quick.
He was down in 21st, a huge jump for Jimmy Vasser coming now to 4th position. And remember, the drivers now running out of time. They just have 1:40 seconds left. And remember, the quicker group is going next, so these guys don't know what the bar will be set at. They've got to get the most out of their cars, not knowing how much faster the second group might go.
Cristiano Damata, Greg Moore, Helio Castroneves out of this group have not improved on their time. Mark Blundell just jumps up and right behind Greg Moore, 8th quick at a 60.27. Jan Beekes.
Well, in the case of Adrian Fernandez, thinking about that wrist, in that we knew that it was a risk for him to run at Laguna Seca with the high G-forces, but he is saying that the roughness of the pavement here is much more difficult than it was for him when he drove at Laguna. It's not so much a high G-force track, but there's a lot of bumps. You fight the wheel, you do a lot of shifting, and in qualifying and in practice, his wrist has been sore. Could be tough for the race.
Oh, Mark Blundell, what so many have done here, locks the brake, slides off course, and that is right after scoring his fastest lap of the weekend. Good enough for 8th quick at the moment. It is a 60.27.
Nevis passes our position. He's got clear track ahead of him. This will be his final lap. A lot of the drivers have been cooling down tires these last couple of laps, and now they know this is their final effort to get it done before the next group comes out.
Adrian Fernandez trying to go even faster and push his pole position further. Got himself in a little bit of trouble.
Well, we've watched Adrian using up every inch of road. Once again, he uses a 1/4 inch too much coming off the corner.
That's about as light a tap as I've seen of the wall with any car, but it slows Adrian down, counting in the final 3 seconds now of this qualifying session. Adrian Fernandez turns it onto the pit road. He holds the provisional pole as the checkered flag comes out for this, the first group. And coming up, of course, Montoya, Fittipaldi, and can Dario Franchitti possibly grab that single point for the pole? That is going to be so very important. Greg Moore on the final lap at 59.9. Scott Pruitt gets it in trouble on the final lap of the session. There's damage on this one.
Heavy damage to the left front suspension. They're obviously going to have to tow him back here. We can see that the brake duct's been broken. Looks like the upper A-arm's been bent.
So these streets are taking their toll. Very, very rough. They are, after all, city streets during the 362 some odd days of the rest of the year. That's how Pruitt got it in trouble. Surprised with that they have that much damage on the car.
Well, you could see that the damage happened to the inside wall as he spun around. That's all it took.
So Adrian Fernandez holds the provisional pole with a 59.7. Still not breaking Greg Moore's track record of last year, but there's the order. The fast group is coming next. Well, back in Houston, Scott Pruitt gets a lift from Robbie Gordon back to the pits with the session over. Don't forget, with so much going on in the motorsports world this weekend, RPM tonight coming up next. We'll get you right up to speed. Now, here's the provisional lineup as the qualifying is now halfway done, and this the second day with Adrian Fernandez grabbing the pole away from Juan Montoya with a 59.7. Montoya with 59.8. Neither of those breaking the track record set last year by Greg Moore with a 59.5, though that could go away here shortly. But it depends on some rain showers that are passing through the area. And this whole game for that single point is so important to Montoya and Franchitti. And part of that whole question will then become, does a guy like Adrian Fernandez become a spoiler in that championship fight this weekend? Jan Beekes?
Well, I think the one thing Adrian Fernandez is doing right now is praying for rain. My question for you is, with your hurt wrist, you're out there rubbing walls trying to get the pole. How much of a risk is that?
It's a risk, but, you know, I wanted to take a chance in qualifying, and it's very bumpy, as you can see from the in-car camera, and my wrist is really getting a severe pain right now just because it's just so bumpy. But it's just a matter of just trying to brush it in a good way. So I don't know if I did it on purpose or it just happened because I was just trying to put out a good lap.
When the track is dry, how much better than yesterday? Will these fast guys go faster if it stays dry?
The track is definitely better, but I think we improve a lot. I hope if it stays dry, I hope to stay in the top 6, top 7. I don't think we managed to get the car as good as for pole, but you know, I've been having bad luck in some other cases, so I hope the rain helps me this time.
All right, we'll wait and see. Gary?
Jimmy Vasser, I know yesterday you were very frustrated. You've made major gains. How much more satisfied are you? Because you're right now, I believe, 5th.
Well, the whole session has to go again. I'm a bit more satisfied. The car feels a bit better, but still not a lot. You know, we're still struggling. I had to put together a lap that I probably couldn't do consistently, and just struggle a little bit with the rear grip under braking, and I could probably use a little bit of rain right now before this qualifying, but we don't want to wish any bad things on anybody.
as conditions have improved, if it should stay dry, do you think that many guys from this second group are going to be able to improve on what Fernandez has posted for the pole at the moment?
I think so, yeah. I think there's a few guys definitely could go quicker than Fernandez's number. Track generally is quicker, second day, second session, so I think you'll see pretty quick times next session.
And, of course, his teammate is warming his engine right now. He's one of those guys that'll be challenging. That's Juan Montoya getting strapped, well, about to step in and get strapped in as he tries to gain back a spot that he's lost for the moment to Adrian Fernandez.
And Gary Gerald, it looks like just a very light sprinkle right now.
Yeah, Paul, that's exactly the case. I don't think it's hard enough that it's going to impact as long as these guys get out there quickly. But you just don't know. We look up here at these broken clouds in the sky, and it just takes one corner where you get a quick little deluge, and it's basically all over for this session. So a lot of sky watching going on at the same time, Paul.
You can see the drops on Montoya's visor and helmet. Now, following the race at Laguna Seca, the two-wheelers revved it up. A cast of Champ Car drivers, family and friends joined to cruise the pavement of California. They rode that scenic route from Monterey to San Francisco. 2 days, 2 nights, part of their adventure, sponsored by Harley-Davidson and Brule, all to benefit Father Phil. And he's one of the cart chaplains, and it all went for his ongoing missionary work. We'll be back with more, and the fast guys coming out. We're back at Houston, qualifying for the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston as we look down from the Honda Helicam up over the convention center and looking down on the pit straight. The pits actually have some advantage with the light sprinkle that's going on here. That many of them actually have canopies over the top of the pits. Not in that area, of course, though. Dario Franchitti back into the pits, out one lap, around and back in. Jan Vikas, what's going on?
Well, they're working around the dash. They have some tape, and they're trying to take down some of the lights that they have that would normally be shift lights, and I would assume that means that maybe something had moved and obscured his vision. They have taped it up. They now have the starter at the back of the machine, and they're going to send him back out to see what he can do, and the conditions at the moment, at least on pit road, are pretty decent. Well,
he stalls it, though.
yeah, he'll need one more start, and then he'll get to do that.
That's somewhat indicative of the tension that may be there?
No, it's not a big deal.
Okay. Juan Montoya. Herta, quick spin off. He'll get back into action. No damage to the car. Montoya still second quick and has yet to have an official lap into the record book. The green flag for this, the second group, has just come out. 26.5 minutes counting. It could be a very interesting time as Montoya comes across the line and still, of course, not up to speed, has completed his first lap, but now begins to work the brakes. And again, with the crown surfaces here and the gutters that run along the edge of this race course, it's quite an obstacle course for the drivers.
Second gear coming onto the long back straightaway. You'll see him pull third, fourth, fifth, and sixth gear here. It's where the cars reach their maximum velocity just at 180 miles an hour. It's also coming down under braking. This is the principal passing area at Houston. Long sweeping constant radius corner. He's got this thing right on the edge, Paul. You can see the back of the car step out there. Now watch the transition onto the concrete right here. Very, very bumpy. Long sweeping right-hand corner. Quick flick back to the left. You see the gutter and how it upsets the car on the inside. Now the final corner onto the pit straight. Boy, he's got this car very, very nervously balanced. And there's the pole, Paul, at a 59.7 with that lap.
59.7, still not a track record. Greg Moore still holds it, 59.5. I would think that this course suits Montoya's somewhat disconnected driving style.
Well, what we've seen from some of the other drivers is the cars have quite a bit of understeer. You can watch the front tires wash out as they go through these corners.
Christian Fittipaldi against the barrier. He was right behind Montoya as he completed that fast lap. But now the car, this may spell the total end of a good effort that had him up at the top of the qualifying order for a time yesterday with very few laps in the car. And Christian had expected to do okay, but not expected to do great in qualifying, and was very surprised with that effort. He climbs out of the car. They display the red flag. They will stop the session to get Christian Fittipaldi's car off course and clear for everyone else. So Montoya takes the pole back from Adrian Fernandez. As yet, we have not seen any improvement. In fact, a fully complete fast lap coming out of Dario Franchitti. We're back in Houston. In the midst of all that, in the Newman Haas pit, you can see Christian Fittipaldi. He's taken his helmet off, turned down the top of his driver's suit, and talked with Carl Haas and Paul Newman. This is what set up this red flag session down in turn 1.
Coming into turn 1 in a little too hot, just a tad too wide, locks up the front brake, slides wide into the tires.
And for the moment, it appears, Gary, they've decided not to go to the backup.
Well, Christian Paul is just, yes, that is the case, not going to the backup. You had a chance to look at a replay there. Can you give us an idea of what happened, Christian?
There's not a lot to say. I braked a little bit too late. I made a mistake, and now I have to pay for my mistake. I want to say sorry to all the Kmart Texaco team, and unfortunately, we really did have a shot at the pole today, but it's not going to happen this time.
How hard will it be now to regroup and start thinking in terms of race tomorrow after this disappointment?
Well, it's definitely something very, very bad, because I have no doubt that we could have been like in the top 4 over here, and that definitely makes a huge difference in the race tomorrow. Starting from further behind, if the other cars improve, which they're more than likely, it's going to make my life a lot harder.
And lest we ever forget that this is an emotional human sport, this man's emotion speaks to that. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Well, and considering his first win in the season at Elkhart Lake, the first one in his career, you can imagine how much pressure missing all those races have pushed on Christian Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti, he currently sits at 14th quick. And really that red flag, as we move ahead to Dario Franchitti, there he is. That red flag for Christian Fittipaldi came at, for almost everyone else, exactly the wrong time.
Or exactly the right time, Paul, because what's happened is it's allowed the track, the moisture that was on the surface is now dried. It has stopped raining. Of course, you don't want to do that to a new set of tires. You don't want to start to lean on them, get some heat in them, and then have a red flag and come into the pits. But for the overall scheme of things, it has now opened up a window of opportunity for many of these drivers to now set a very quick time on that first set of tires, make some changes, and then really get cranked up for the second set of tires and go for the pole position.
Montoya, the provisional pole. Adrian Fernandez, second quick. Christian Fittipaldi still sits third quick, with Greg Moore in the last session coming up to fourth quick.
And I would expect in this session we're going to watch Franchitti pull himself up. We'll also see Brian Herta come up as well. And there are a number of other drivers. Keep in mind, Paul Tracy's down at 17th place right now. I expect him to move up quite a bit in this session, if not actually be in contention for the front. Remember, Team Green has been so strong on the street courses, and I would expect that to repeat itself here again today.
Brian Herta, the winner 2 weeks ago at Laguna Seca, who has been very quick this weekend, currently sits sixth with a 60.098.
You can see how hard he's hustling this car. You can just see that inside front wheel almost stop rotating at the very end of the braking area on corner entry.
And Brian Herta just grabbed the pole with a 59.5, and Tony Kanaan jumped up into second quick, 59.7. So 59.547, close but still not at the record. But Brian Herta, who has been quick, we mentioned that, and now slows on the circuit. I wonder if he ran it out of fuel at that point.
No, it looks like he just pulled over because he saw the faster traffic behind him. He was slowing down to let his tires cool down. I would expect him to come back up to speed now. And look at the top of this change, Paul.
Paul Tracy now goes to second quick, 59.6. Brian Herta still provisional pole. His teammate Max Pappas was just behind him. Joe DeFerrin, looking at him there, 59.7. DeFerrin fifth quick. So many changes up at the top. Montoya forced all the way down to fourth quick, just completed a lap and was not able to improve upon his time.
I'm not surprised by Tony Kanaan's performance. Remember, his first pole came earlier at Long Beach this year. He and his engineer, Diane Hall, have done a great job on all the street courses. Of course, his first win at the US 500 on an oval was kind of a surprise for everyone. But I would expect them now to fine-tune this chassis and make another run for that front row. We just heard that Chip Ganassi has told Juan Montoya that he better get back on track here and up to speed because he's fallen back 3 positions now to P4.
Paul Tracy slowed down after his quick lap that put him second quick in the order right now. Jan Bikas?
Well, remember, Paul, he needs to play as a team player. In other words, the Team Cool Green organization wants to do whatever they can to be sure that Montoya does not get the pole to give Dario a better opportunity at the championship. So Paul Tracy, not only for his own sake, but for the team's sake, is doing whatever he can to try and steal that pole.
Montoya goes back to take the pole. 59.1. So Montoya now sets a new record, grabs the pole back. Hurted a second quick. Franchitti third. Tracy fourth.
What a great young driver. Chip Ganassi says he better turn up the wick. He goes, okay, no problem. Sets a new track record, puts it way out there, 0.4 of a second quicker than anybody else. And Franchitti has now just moved up to third quick.
Paul Tracy just had an off-course excursion, got it back under power and moving again, but things changing very quickly with now about 10.5 minutes left to go in the qualifying for the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston.
That shows you how fast things change. Remember, just 25-30 minutes ago, we were talking to Adrian Fernandez, our provisional pole sitter. He's now in 8th place, and I think we're going to see some more movement before this session is over.
Dario Franchitti at third quick now with a 59.6. So many things changing. Most of the cars should head in now, pick up some fresh rubber, think it over, find a clear space, and then use the last few minutes of this qualifying session to try to improve even further on the times already set. We'll be back. We're back, the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston, the streets of Houston, just outside the convention center. Number 15, driving for Derek Walker, Naoki Hattori, who yesterday came out of qualifying with a 5th quick, got everybody's attention, now sits at 18th overall. So whatever he was able to pull off yesterday, he's not been able to replicate nor improve upon today.
Big surprise yesterday with that 5th quick qualifying, sort of a gasp up and down the pit lane. But now Gilles DeFerrin, his teammate, has put his car in 7th place, Naoki in 18th.
Richie Hearn, Toyota Power, still looking for a good opportunity, and he just barely brushed the wall. He was 7th quick yesterday. Paul Tracy moves up to 2nd quick with a 59.9, and Hearn currently sits 11th quick, having just turned his best lap of the qualifying session, but keeping track of Dario Franchitti, who has now dropped down to 4th overall. Jan?
Well, he has come in here. They've made a few adjustments. They gave him some more front wing. But check out these tires. It's the first guy in the top that's gone out on sticker tires. So Dario Franchitti is going to try and set the mark early here on the second set.
There's still plenty of time left. 8.5 minutes to go in the session as Franchitti rolls out with fresh rubber.
But good strategy, I think, with Dario and Team Green, because as we've seen in the past, everyone will put on this fresh set with 5-6 minutes to go. They start to push. All it takes is someone to brush a wall, red flag the session, blow an engine, lose a gearbox, and you've lost that opportunity to improve. So Team Green going with a more conservative strategy, putting Dario out on these fresh tires first. But I think right now that's a smart thing to do.
Paul Tracy still 2nd quick as he comes in. He'll no doubt go to fresh rubber as well. We mentioned that Paul Tracy was still in that championship fight, but it's some higher mathematics, maybe some differential calculus to get him there. He really, to do it, has to win everything, while at the same time Montoya and Franchitti not finishing in the point. So he's effectively out of the game. It's down to Montoya and Franchitti.
And Paul Tracy is, in fact, going to go to the new tires as we suspected. He's having a bit of a conversation right now with his engineer, Tony Sicali, deciding what sort of changes they want to make. He's going to look over the times to see where he stands, and they actually will go in and they will program the dash for the fastest lap that he has done. And then as he goes to each one of the corners around the racetrack, he will be able to see if he is improving. It's called the datum. They'll program it in, and he'll know each corner he goes around whether he's done better than he had done previously.
And that's very helpful for the driver, because if you get half a lap done and then have a bad corner, you can see whether you're ahead or behind. The driver, if he's behind, can back out, save the tires, let him cool down, and have another go at it. Psychologically, it's very, very good. It's like chasing a rabbit, because you're always trying to improve on that best lap that you've done. It's something that they've just had the last few years. Excellent device for drivers who are trying to get clear laps, not be distracted by other drivers, but yet know exactly what the mark is that they have to beat.
Both Brian Herta and Tony Kanaan have completed laps at speed after stopping in the pits, and they have not changed their position. Brian Herta 3rd quick, Tony Kanaan 5th. Dario Franchitti getting up to speed now. The rain seems to have gone for the most part away, and in fact it's begun to lighten, but you still have high clouds in the sky, though it doesn't seem likely that rain will affect the end of this session. Back with Dario Franchitti, 59.6. His fastest lap to this point. and he is not able to improve on it with that lap. But this may be the flyer.
62.2 on that lap. He's got to find a 59.10 or better. And I think that this will, except for traffic going by his teammate Paul Tracy there, this will be the quick one. He'll have an opportunity to back off and maybe try it once or twice more. They've got 5 minutes and 50 seconds left, so he's running out of opportunities here as the other drivers are now coming up to speed on stickers, coming into the pits to get those stickers.
Gil DeFerrin comes across the line, does not improve. Tony Kanaan, 5th quick, 59.6. Franchitti still the man to watch. The story of the weekend, the story of the championship, lies between Dario Franchitti and Juan Montoya. And the point separation, 28 coming into this weekend. If Montoya can leave here with a 44-point cushion on Dario Franchitti, representing the number of points available for the rest of the season, then Montoya will leave here as a rookie champion. Franchitti does not improve his time. Last lap, 59.68, so he's 0.05 off of his fastest time. So there's Montoya. He still sits on the pole here with now just under 5 minutes counting to the end of qualifying.
ESPN Classic.
Back in the final minutes of qualifying for the Texaco Grand Prix of Houston, Dario Franchitti on course, coming up to speed, has traffic to contend with, but that traffic, of course, is his main obstacle in the championship as well as on the racetrack, Juan Montoya. And he backs out of it, decides, I'm going to let Juan go, and then I'll decide when I can get back up to speed.
All the pressure being on Dario Franchitti. Montoya's already posted a great time. He's in command of the championship. It's the last person you'd want to come up behind on the racetrack is Montoya, because Juan now coming up to speed on his second set of tires. All he has to do is feather in a few corners. He's ruined your lap, and he knows that Dario went out early on that set of tires and doesn't have many laps left on them.
Yeah, but that doesn't appear to be the strategy that Montoya wants to use as he starts a high-speed lap at the same time that Franchitti does. Max Pappas jumps up to second quick, puts Tracy back into the second row. Pappas with a 59.19.
Remember, Pappas had such a great run here last year, the inaugural race at Houston, posting at the time Toyota's best finish ever on a road course, the best finish for Max Pappas, finishing 5th. He's got this track down. We've seen him all weekend long in the practice sessions, just on the ragged edge from entry to mid-corner to exit, and he turns a great lap. Now he's only 0.08 of a second behind Montoya.
Montoya, I think, wants to put the time totally out of reach as he has been burning this lap up. Max Pappas moved into second quick. Paul Tracy had a quick spin but continued on, and Dario Franchitti comes across the line, still in 4th place, but improves on his time to a 59.3. And Franchitti just ran off course. Fortunately, I don't see any damage. If he can work his way back around and back onto the track, then there's still 2 minutes 45 left in this session.
But we saw in that last lap, Montoya turned to 59.4 and was obviously coming up to speed even quicker. This really puts a tremendous amount of pressure on Dario. He's going to run out of time. He's got to try to get back up to speed. We don't know if he's damaged his tires. This should be an even quicker lap for Montoya if he's going to pull one out of the bag. We've now seen Brian Hurd in 5th place went quicker. DeFerrin's just gone quicker. Magnussen back in 8th place has gone quicker. And Michael Andretti for the first time is in 10th place. And Naoki Hattori, Paul.
Naoki Hattori goes to 6th quick with a 59.5. So it was not a fluke in the first qualifying. Hattori is moving, and Montoya lowers it further on the pole, 58.6.
Well, I thought that would be the lap. We could see as we left there that he was as hung out as we've seen him all year, and I think he's just put it out of reach for everybody else.
Well, and the odds, it worked again. Paul Tracy comes up to second quick, pushes Max Pappas down to 3rd. Franchitti got in trouble running off the end of turn 1. Then he worked his way through the tire barriers, made a left onto Rust Street, which is part of the fairly complex pit exit here, but that put him a full lap before he was even going to see the line. So he should pick up speed at his next crossing of the line, that is assuming the tires are all okay.
That's just way too many distractions for a race driver with this much pressure in the closing moments of qualifying. Whereas if you look at Paul Tracy, what Montoya's done, or Max Pappas, they've had trouble-free practices. They can just focus on one thing, which is going as fast as possible. Franchitti's got lots of other things in his mind now. He knows he's running out of time, and he knows that Montoya has just put in a lap that is 0.6 of a second quicker than his best. Oh, that's an awful high bar to jump over this late in the session.
Max Pappas Speed, Patrick Carpentier following behind him.
Watch Max hustle this car, Paul. We've watched it all weekend long.
Franchitti just pushed his time quicker, 59.3, but it doesn't change his position. Still fourth quick. Max Pappas to third with that run. Here comes Dario Franchitti now. Pappas goes to third quick. Joe DeFerrin crosses the line, pushes forward, fifth quick. Franchitti to third now. Dario Franchitti with that lap, 59.179, and his third quick. DeFerrin's got himself in trouble. Is it resting against the wall, or has it truly hit the wall?
Well, it's off the line. You can see just behind him where it swings back to the right side. He obviously just swung it back.
This will not change the session. Counting the final 5 seconds as Herta goes to second quick. Brian Herta to second quick. The session will be flagged now. The time has run out. They come to the line will be the only times that are scored. We'll see whether or not anything changes here. Paul Tracy on the fly, currently third quick. He crosses the line, doesn't change his position. Montoya has the pole. Brian Herta second quick.
And Montoya was the first one to get the checkered flag, so he's out of it now, returning.
And for Dario Franchitti, he will start on the outside of the second row alongside of his teammate, Paul Tracy. He crosses the line with no change in his position. We'll be back after this.